What's up, everybody? Mike here. I made a chicken pesto sandwich on a homemade ciabatta. I'm going to walk you through how to do it all. The ingredients for my ciabatta are super simple. I have a 2-to-1 ratio of flour to water and a 3-to-1 ratio of salt to yeast. That's 4 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and half a teaspoon of yeast. All that you are going to do for this is combine everything together, and then you are going to get it resting onto your counter. So in go my flour and my salt and yeast. Give that a rough mix. And now I'm just going to combine in my water. Once your dough ball comes together into one cohesive mass like this, that's when you are going to cover it and let it sit on your counter overnight, preferably about a day and a half. And I'm going to check on this in about 18 hours and show you what it looks like then. "18 hours later, and my dough has risen. You can see just how bubbly it is. So I am going to go ahead and turn this out and shape it into some sandwich loaves. I'm going to try to shape this into about 6 loaves. Once I get it all tucked in, first thing, I'm going to split it down the center, and then each of those 2 halves is going to be split into 3 sections so that I can make 6 loaves. And these are my very roughly shaped ciabatta loaves. So I'm going to let these re-proof here just by putting another sheet pan over top of it. This is going to proof for 2 hours, and in the last 30 minutes of that 2 hours, I'm going to preheat my oven to 425 degrees before I put in that baking sheet with the ciabatta on it. I'm going to show you what they look like when they come when I'm ready to put them in the oven in just a couple of minutes. Two hours later, and my ciabatta is ready to go in the oven. You can see just how big they got, and yes, they're a little misshapen. I don't really care. I'm just going to be using them for sandwiches. So these are going to go into my preheated 425 degree oven, and I'm going to check on them after about 20 minutes or so that I can see what they look like, but they may need to go to about 35 minutes depending on exactly how wet they are. So in the oven they go. I'm going to show you what they look like when they are done next. Loaves are out of the oven. You can see this nice golden color and the nice crust that has developed. I'm going to let them sit here for about 5 minutes to cool before I transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely, and then I'm going to use them for some sandwiches. The Cheater's pesto is very simple. It's not traditional, but it is simple. I have about 3.5 ounces of basil, about 3.5 tablespoons of chopped garlic, a little less than half of a lemon squeezed here, 1 cups each of freshly grated parmesan, toasted pine nuts, and olive oil. To make it, I am literally just going to throw it into my food processor here. And this is going to be super simple. So this is the pesto that I am going with. You can see that there is still a bit of chunky green in there. But to keep it nice and green, that is where I'm going to use the other half of my olive oil. So whenever I want to store this, I want to put the other half of my olive oil on top so that it creates a airproof barrier from getting in and discoloring this pesto. The chicken is super simple, but it does need to marinate. So I have 9 total pieces of chicken tenders that I'm just going to toss into a bowl. And I am going to then take my pesto and I am going to get that marinating overnight in this pesto so that the garlic and the basil can work its way into the chicken. And the best way to get this marinated is just to use my hands to make sure that it is fully coated here. So that's what I'm going to do. My chicken has been marinating, so I went ahead and I pulled it out of the pesto. I left some on there still because I want some of the crispy cheese in order to like bake on there and give me some crunch. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these up. I have a stainless or a non-stick pan here with some olive oil. The olive oil that I poured onto the pesto actually to keep it from discoloring. And now I'm going to go ahead and cook up my chicken. Once my chicken is cooked through and it has some nice color on it, I'm going to go ahead and pull it from the heat, and I want to cover it to let it rest for about 5 minutes before I assemble my final sandwich. I'm going to use this time in order to toast my bread, and then I'm going to assemble this sandwich with just the chicken, bread, and more pesto. And next up, you get to see the final reveal. And that's how you make my ciabatta chicken pesto sandwich. I can't wait for you to let me know your thoughts, but for right now, it is my lunchtime, and I can't wait to tear into this. So for right now, just look at my face.